Good morning and welcome to Coffee Time with Jesus in the Kentucky-Tennessee Division. We are excited about this month as we focus on calling and our Core Cadet ministries. This month we'll hear from those who have answered the call to be officers and to be leaders within their Corps. Enjoy this time and their testimonies.
My name is Bria Swaringam, and I am the case manager for the Salvation Army Corps in Jackson, Tennessee. I got involved with the Army earlier. Well, we're in a new year, so I forget sometimes. But I got involved with the Salvation Army in Jackson earlier last year. The pandemic made everything different for all of us, especially if you're a mom and you have kids. And so my kids, of course, were doing virtual learning, and if you have kids, you know the struggle that was virtual school. And so in having my kids do virtual school, it was really hard for me to work a full-time job because I spent my days, between two different kids in the virtual school. So in the summer of 2021, the summer camp that my kids would normally go to reopened normally, thankfully, and so I could send them to summer camp. And so that freed me up to get a full-time job. And so how I came to be at the Army feels like a God thing for sure, because I started applying for jobs on Indeed, and I don't know if you guys have ever applied for jobs on Indeed, but most of those jobs are pretty much filled. They just have to post them. But the Salvation Army in Jackson had a posting, and so I applied, and thank God I got an interview. I had applied to so many jobs before then and heard nothing back. And so I got an interview at the Salvation Army in Jackson, and a couple of days later, I got hired to start working there as a case manager. And my calling really is born out of the work that I do as a case manager, because the families that we serve, their kids, I see a lot of myself in those kids. A lot of kids, when I was a kid and I grew up poor, we didn't always have food. So I would go to church just because I knew that they would feed us, which is not the most honorable reason to go to church. I know that. But we've even experienced that with some of the kids that we serve in our local Corps, that they come because they know that we will love them, they know that we will feed them, and that we will nurture them. And so in getting to do that work every day, my calling was really born out of that. And I was like, how do I do more of that? How do I, essentially make that my career? And so my Corps officer talked to me about becoming an officer and what that would look like. And I was on board after that, because that meant that, I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. So that meant that I could, do more of what I went to college for, and actually what's aligned with my passion. And so that's how I got involved with the Army. Our local Corps, we got a grant, and it's called 2GEN from the state of Tennessee. And so we work with families. Anybody who gets services under the 2GEN grant, it has to be, there has to be kids involved under the age of 18. And so that can look like grandparents raising their kids, raising their grandkids, that can look like a single mom with her kids. That can look like a single dad with their kids. But, with the 2GEN grant, what we do is work with them to set life goals, to, basically like help them elevate their lives. And we don't tell them that their lives are not elevated. That's not what we mean. We just mean that if they have goals that they want to work towards, we want to be good stewards of what God has given us and help, walk alongside them and provide them with resources. I just want to take a minute to encourage you. I don't know if you're getting ready for church, if you're getting ready for work, what you're getting ready to go do. But I do know that you and I are the same, in that we are believers, we love Jesus, and so in loving Jesus, we need to love the people that are around us. And so I would just take this time to encourage you to think about how you interact with the people around you, because you never know what people are going through, and especially being a part of the Army, whether you're a volunteer, whether you work for your local Corps, whether you attend church sporadically, you are a believer who loves Jesus. And so And being a believer who loves Jesus, we at all times have to think about what kind of message does the way we live our lives, what kind of message does that put out to the world? Because a little more of my own personal story, I did not grow up in church. And so I didn't really have a concept of God until I was probably 15. Now, I would go to church with family members, like I mentioned earlier, because I knew that they would feed me when I went to church. But the thing that cemented my faith for me was when I started going to church when I was 15. And the way that the people at the church that I attended, the way that they loved me, I was like, even not that my parents didn't love me, they did the best they could, but the love that you feel from a person who is serving Jesus, it feels like a soft, warm kind of love. And the way that those people loved me and my siblings, even though we were a little rough around the edges, we had to be told that, like, hey, when somebody makes you mad, you don't have to fight them. This was a thing that I had to be taught. And even being rough around the edges, those people just loved us. They did not judge us. They did not treat us like the poor kids from, the poor side of town. They just loved us. And so it made me stand up and take notice and say, like, why do these people's lives look different than my parents' lives even? Because even to this day, my parents do not attend church. I try to convince them, and I still pray for them. But I know that, like, those people were the spiritual parents that I needed. And so even looking back and thinking about people that I grew up with, my life looks completely different because somebody who loved Jesus decided to love me and my sisters and take us under their wing and, just train us up in the way that we should go. I feel like my life would look so different if it wasn't for people who love Jesus. So I want you to think about that as you interact with people throughout the day. You never know what impact the way you live your life will have on their life. And you never know if they're suffering. If maybe when you smile at them, it gives them hope. If maybe when you ask them, hey, how was your day? Hey, I know you have a sick kid. How's your kid doing? And not even just ask them, but say, hey, can I pray for you? Because I used to, as a person who didn't grow up in church, there's a lot of church things that used to make me very uncomfortable. And I used to feel uncomfortable praying. I don't feel that way anymore, of course, because I know the power of prayer. But there's so much power that comes from you just simply saying to somebody, hey, can I pray for you about this? Or hey, what can I pray for you? Because we believe in the power of prayer. And even if they don't, they can borrow your belief in the power of prayer. And so ask people, after you've built a relationship, of course, don't just roll up on people and say, hey, what can I pray for you about? That's awkward. But ask them, what can I pray for you about? And then pray specifically for them about that thing. And I will leave you guys with my favorite verse. This gets me through some of my hardest things, because the devil is always going to throw arrows, to try to knock you off course, to say, who do you think you are to do that thing? And the verse is 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind.
We hope you have enjoyed these testimonies and stories and getting to know our candidates and core cadets better. God bless you. Remember to subscribe to this link and also hit the bell for alerts so you know what's coming next.